name's Gareth and welcome to Fat Pigeon Audio Reviews, where today we're taking a look at this speaker, the Studio 89 for Monitor Audio. Now this is not the first one, of course. The first one came out in, 1989, and this is the new iteration of it. This is the 2024 version of it, and I've had a lot of fun trying this speaker out. It only came out a few days ago, so I've not had a massive amount of time with it, but I just wanted to get a quick review out there just to let you fine people at home know what this speaker is like. As you can see, 2 drivers, 1 tweeter. Now the MPD-3 tweeter that's in here, a ribbon tweeter, folded ribbon tweeter, is trickle-down technology from the Hyphen, the flagship from Monitor Audio. And it's worked its way down into this new Studio 89 speaker. And that will come back to the tweeter and the sound from that. We also have 2 aluminium ceramic coated tweeters. We'll come back to that ceramic coated tweeter for the responsiveness and how fast they can produce that sort of clean sound. So 4 1/4, and then the tweeter that's been trickled down from the Hyphen technology. You do actually have 2 screws at the back that holds everything in place. So I believe what I've heard, that this is like a one piece that's all slots in. So it's one unit, and then the cabinet obviously built around it. So as we can see, obviously it's a 2-way format. They're an 86 decibel speaker. They are a 6 ohm speaker, rated at 6 ohm speaker, but they do drop down, or can drop down, to 4 ohms. Now they're 150 watt is sort of their optimal wattage, but obviously they can go between 50 watts and 300 watts, as it says in the specifications and in the information that I've got. So don't be put off by that 6 ohms. I mean, when I've been demoing them against sort of 8 ohm speakers, and this is a 6 ohm speaker, it's just a couple more increments, maybe 1 or 2 digits on your amplifier, just to get them to the same sort of volume as an 8 ohm speaker. So nothing to worry about. Again, they work from like 30 watts, I believe, to 300 watts with amplification. It's rear ported, so it's got these thin rear ports, top and bottom of the cabinet on the rear. It's obviously got the binding posts on the rear as well, just 2. They're not biampable, it's not bi-wireable, but it does have 2 solid sort of binding posts there that are very big, very chunky, and very easy to use, tighten up everything else. If you're using banana plugs, obviously you won't be using the actual twiddly bits, but you'll just plug them straight in, and they are very sturdy on the back. They also have a little surround that matches the same colour as the drivers. A nice little touch. It says Studio 89 on the back. I'll do some B-roll for you so you can actually see the binding posts and exactly how they're sort of situated on the back. very small cabinet. It's a very small footprint. So you compare it to sort of like the R3 Meta at this sort of price point. The R3 Meta from KEF is slightly bigger. It's a bigger cabinet than this, but that's got to hold like a 6-inch driver for the top and the bottom with that UniQ array there as well. But this is a smaller footprint. Now, it still gets down to 48 Hz, and it really does it with a kick and a punch. It's sort of very surprising. The size of the speaker, the sort of small footprint that it is. Now, it also gets up to 60,000 Hz. Now, as we all know, everybody knows, you can't hear past 20,000, or if you really got good radio. Anyway, but the fact that it can do that 60,000 with this sort of trickle-down technology from the Hyphen, with that tweeter, says it can do the 20,000 with absolute ease, without even blinking an eye or batting an eyelid. That's the same thing, right? So, absolutely with ease. And the fact that it can get up to there, like I say, it's sort of a... I think it's a good thing. If it was struggling at its maximum was 20,000, maybe it's at its peak, and maybe it's straining to get to that 20,000. Again, albeit maybe we can't hear it, but the fact that it can get to 60,000 Hz, gets to 1520 that we can hear, easy peasy. It's 86 decibels, so it's not the easiest speaker to drive, again at that 6 ohms, but it's only a couple more increments on your amplifier. All the amplifiers I've tested from like the Audiolab 6000 all the way through to the Heagle 390, also the Technics R1000 as well, at about £8,000. And this is a sort of, I'll get back to that, how it works with amplifications and different sort of equipment. But for the specification, so it's got your 6 ohms, it's 86 decibels, it dips to 4, it's got two 4¼ inch drivers, and then this tweeter that obviously, as like I say, has been trickled down from the Hyphen. Lovely binding posts on the back with the beautiful sort of, they call it gold. Now, I'm not sure how the video is sort of capturing it, and I've done a lot of B-roll for this as well, so we can have a look around it with this stand. So it's £2,500 with this stand. The stand is £500, of course, but it has all these sort of damping forces. So you've got little washers, damping, special, like not rubber but not plastic, between the actual speaker and the top of the stand. Then you have on the top where the actual feet are, where the sort of goldy copper finish is on that, there's another damping sort of washer, resonant-based washer that seats between that, and then on the very bottom where the spike is, there's a big rubber section, so it's sort of planted on the ground, but again, it's not really connected to the ground with all those different things in between, that sort of damping force. And the way that these sort of work together, and how solid they are, and how sort of uniform everything is, and how, just how it controls the bass, because everything's bolted together and, again, planted to that floor, it really does sort of warrant that extra £500 for that sort of stand. It does make a difference to the sound quality that I've sort of demonstrated on normal stands with the stands in. I've had to play around with them, obviously. I've had to play around with them. So I've had them on the stands without a stand, but on the stands they do have a little bit more of a more control over them. The dimensions, like I say, they are smaller than the KEF R3 Meta. Now, I absolutely love that speaker. The KEF R3 Meta for me was a wow factor at the £1,900 price point that it was. Again, now I think they were a similar price at £2,500 with the stands again. So these are sort of put right up against, toe-to-toe with the R3 Meta. And this is the new kid on the block, as it were. And I don't know if I'm going to put it in the actual thumbnail yet, but this, in my opinion, I'm a ribbon fan. I like the accuracy of the ribbon. This, for me, differs from the KEF R3 Meta for accuracy. It gets, again, do not be fooled by the footprint of this speaker. It gets low, and it's low enough, and it does a beautiful bass. Again, across all the sort of the amplifiers that I've tried, the bass can change of how it's being controlled. The more you sort of spend when you go for the Heagle route, the Technics, sort of like I say, the Technics amp I've been testing on, the Arcam controls it very nicely. The Audiolab is a little bit freer, not as controlled as the other amps I've tried, but these sort of, it's very subtle, slight differences. So if you've got an Audiolab, if you've got an old Technics amplifier from back in the 90s, and it's 100 watts, 80 watts, 60 watts, whatever, it will drive this beautifully. It's just that they do sound. I actually read the Watt Hi-Fi. I saw an advert the other day, and they said that they need to be paired up with different sort of equipment. And I sort of agree with that to a certain extent. But when you sort of get it with a more budget-friendly amplifier, they still absolutely sing. There's never going to be a bad sound that comes out of these. So that's the point I'm getting to. I'm rambling. I'm going too quickly. Let me slow down. Okay. For me, accuracy, bass control, those mids, the dynamics, the imaging of these, how these image is astonishingly good. And for me, these are the R3 Meta killers. These are £100 more, I know. But if you sat and listened to these, if you own the R3s, or, I mean, don't get me wrong, okay, let's get into that. Okay. If you already own a pair of R3 Metas, it's not really worth your extra money to buy these. Okay, so these are, in my opinion, these are better than the R3 Metas. But, R3 Metas. But, if you've not got a speaker, I'd recommend these £2,000 or £100 more. But if you've already bought the R3 Metas, albeit these are slightly better, it's probably not worth spending another £2,000 on these ones, because they're not obviously £2,000 better than the R3 Metas that you already own, if that makes sense. I sort of keep all the R3 Metas because these are just slightly, subtly better for me on the accuracy of a trumpet, on the realism of drums and that sort of thing. That ceramic coating, like we talked about before, it keeps everything so tight and so fast and responsive, and it sort of copes with everything. Again, with the amps, I know the amps, it works across the board with all amps. That's why I like the R3 Meta. It worked with every genre of music, and it worked with any amp you sort of threw at it. And this is very similar to it. Now, the only thing that I could sort of tell a difference is, like I said, that bass control. On a Heagle, for instance, I tried it on the 95 and the 190V, and it's beautiful. Even on the 95, just the way that Heagle, sort of that manufacturer, the way that they grip hold of bass, controls them beautifully. Albeit it's a £1,500 amplifier, the 95, and then obviously a £3,250 amplifier for the 190V. But these will step up, just like the R3s did, but these will step up every single time with every amplifier you put through it. Now again, the What Hi-Fi sort of said that, you need to pair it nicely with equipment. Yes, if you do get it with £5,000 390 Heagle amplifier, or the £8,000 Technics I've been testing with, these absolutely sing. You're sort of pushing them to 100% of their capabilities at this £2,000 price point. But again, if you've got a more budget friendly, I've got an old Nate XS at home. It's very old but it drove them beautifully. It really did. And again, there's Technics stuff. If you've got Technics amplifiers, old ones, Mark III, 700, SU, I've got a few of those at home as well, and I tried those through it. Again, the bass wasn't, the only thing that the amplifier affected for me really, that was audible and really noticeable, was how it controlled the bass on these. But they will work with any amplifier you put it. Albeit it puts out that 30 watts that it does say in the specifications, 30 to 300 watts, so nothing more than 300, because that's when you start to get into the territory of distortion and maybe damaging the speaker. But most amps will be 30 watts anyway. Even the valve amps, the way that they work is different in power. But any amplifier, and the highs, the mids, they just work. The performance of these speakers is absolutely mind-blowing to me. I've got certain tracks that I use all the time. I'll probably make a list of them that I actually use for demoing a new speaker. Don't get me wrong, these were good out the box, but they've got better over time. Remember, if the KEF R3 Metas were awful out the box. It was one of the things I said, and one of the things that you have to tell people, especially working in retail with obviously selling speakers and things like that, you have to say, you've not made a mistake, don't be put off by them when you get home. They will sound terrible out the box. You have to give them about 10 to 30 hours to let them run it. These are no different. These were better than the R3 Metas out the box. But again, I know the R3 Meta is, and the BRX as well, sorry. The GoldenEye BRX is £1,700. These are, I'm listing the ones that I've sort of reviewed in my channel. The R3 Metas I fell in love with. The BRX is one of the first sort of bookshelves at that price point I'd ever heard. And I was absolutely astonished by those as well. But these tick them, albeit that the BRX is also a ribbon tweeter and it has the passive radiators. These just do the bass better. Even on the sort of cheaper amp side of it. I don't know how they've achieved it. With obviously they got doubled up on the drivers. But how they achieve how low that is, and it's a smooth, it's silky smooth, timed bass that's punchy. It's quite a dense bass. When I say like when it's a lazy bass, it's sort of bloated and blah blah blah, and it's not controlling. It sort of fills the room more of bloat more than actual control. So what will happen is that the studio that made the Kate Bush album and this song came out, it wasn't supposed to sound that bassy. But these get more accurate, like I say, how it should have sounded from the studio. I.e., they are a Studio 89 speaker, and that transparency. That transparency that comes through this speaker is astonishing. It's sort of blowing my mind the price point that these are, because these, if I'd have said to you and you came and listened to these, for instance, here at Audio Lounge Leicester, see what I did there? Plugged it. Oh, and like and subscribe. Anyway, if you came and listened to these and I said to you, oh, these are a £3,500 speaker, mate, have a seat, have a listen, and you'd think, yeah, okay, yeah, they are. They sound about £3,500 speaker. They sound fantastic. Especially, like I say, on the Heagles, for me, they absolutely sang. The Arkhams it worked very well with, even with the A5 at £749, that really got a lot of information out of the speaker. Vinyl is king on these. I love the vinyl, that analog warmth, that tweeter. And the body that comes from them. Again, don't be put off by the size of them. It's a bit of a wow factor speaker when you sit here, you put them in front of you and you think, they're a bit small, what are they going to do? And boom! You're like, what? That's coming from the speaker? Noel's Lifgren track, Keith Don't Do. I know a lot of audiophiles out there, people out there go, oh, bloody hell, everyone needed that. They do, yeah, just a sort of reference point for me, because about 3 minutes into that track, he does a ding, 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 really high pitchy sort of sound on it. With his guitar, and I want to see what sort of how the tweeter copes with it. Can it cope with that sort of high frequency, that sort of punchiness, that twang of the guitar, that sort of energy that guitar gives? Can a tweeter cope with that? And this was super accurate. And you're sitting there, and again, these have like an energy behind them that it's hard to explain. You get more from an instrument, if that makes sense. A violin, you can tell it's a bigger sound from a violin. It's more transparent. It's like you are in the room with these. That sort of wowed me. More than I expected. Now, I thought they'd go toe-to-toe with the R3 Metas, and I thought, again, because the R3 Metas were one of my favourite speakers, and the BRXs again, this similar sort of price point, I thought they've got some competition. They've really got some competition. £1,900 for the KEF, and then obviously the BRXs at £1,700. I thought they've got to do something pretty special for that extra £300 or the extra £100, and they've achieved it. They've just easily do it. They surpass the R3s just very, very comfortably. Again, I'm still a fan of the R3s. And I think I even said on my video with the R3s that I can't wait for a speaker to come out, or even on the BRXs, I can't wait for a speaker to come out for this price point that beats them. Here we are. The day is today. It is today. This is a fantastic speaker for £2,000. And I'm going to say it again. I cannot wait for the day for a £2,000 speaker that comes out and beats the Monitor Audio Studio 89s. Because I'm flabbergasted by it. Flabbergasted. You get sort of involved and engrossed in it. And it's one of those sort of speakers that... I test a lot of speakers here at Audio Lounge. This is obviously where I work. And it's, I do the videos. But I test a lot of speakers here, and I've said on my channel before that if they're amazing speakers and it's get that wow factor, I will put them on the channel. But we get so much sort of stock come through from a lot of different manufacturers, some you've heard of, some you haven't. And if I'm not sort of like, what? I don't put them on the channel. I need to be excited about it, and that's why I come across as excited like I am now. So we've done the sort of summary. Build quality wise, it's solid. They're super solid. Again, with that stand, they look fantastic. They seat properly. They are adjustable stands as well at the bottom. If you've got some sort of like carpet or flooring issues at home, you can get them perfectly level. Binding posts are tight and secure. They're not going to pop out. They're not too tight where you think, I ain't getting that out. But they just score a bit of pressure under it. And it's just a satisfying sort of push. I know it's a silly thing, but I'm a big fan of the binding posts. If they're too tight, I don't like it. If they're too loose, then what's the sort of point? They're not making a proper surface, all that surface area connection. And I need them to be good, and these are good. So it all sort of comes down to this. I think the fact that the Monitor Audio they know how good these are. And I think it's obviously, it stems from 1989 when they only did a black version of the, but this is it. They're like, well, if you don't like it, they're that good, you'll have them in black. with this gold. Like I say, the gold for me, when you see them in person, I've seen pictures of them obviously before they came out, and I said, let's get some in the shop. They're going to get rave reviews, and I think it's just got that tweeter, the Trickle Down Technology from Hyphen. Oh, I need to hear it. So we got them in, and wow, thank God we got them in. A lot of people that have come through the shop, obviously that's what I'm basing sort of, I've listened to them here with different amplifiers on different stands, like I say, in different sort of situations, close to the wall, back to the wall. Then they're not picky with sort of positioning, but you do need about 18 inches. A sort of minimum of 18 inches from the wall because of the rear portedness. When I put them sort of super close to the wall, I did start to get a little bit of that bloat, that sort of that gain from the speaker, from the bass itself, that shouldn't really be there. It wasn't sort of keeping up anymore. But then you bring it back out to about 18 inches. 2 foot for me was absolutely superb. That's where it had room to breathe. So about that 2 foot mark, 18 inches again, if you're sort of limited on space, they work. That sort of, that bloat, that sort of, that extra gain does disappear from the speaker. But the tracks, like I say, I use Santana tracks. There's a new track I've just bought on vinyl that I've put through this. It's a really, I will sort of list them for you if you're interested. Just drop me a comment after you've liked and subscribed. It's free to subscribe. Yeah. You get to see me waving and doing. Anyway, I will put. Like I say, if you ask, I will certainly give you the sort of tracks that I demoed these with, and I demoed most speakers with. I sort of try and keep it, I change it up. We've actually, Audio Lounge Leicester is actually on Qobuz as well. So if you type in Audio Lounge Leicester on the Qobuz, you can see what sort of tracks we're using to demo these anyway. So it's always worth a try. But I've got some new ones now, like I say, and I will list them below. Because these things, I'm sort of trying to get the best sort of, the realism from a trumpet. So if someone said to me the other day when they came in and they said to me that, is that a bit bright? And I said, actually, there's a sort of fine line between bright. So you've got to think to yourself, accuracy from a trumpet. If someone blows a trumpet really hard, really hard, I don't know if that's too much for the microphone. I don't even know if the microphone's working. But if someone sort of, and he said, that's a bit peaky. That trumpet, it's a bit really raspberry and peaky. But then I said to him, no, absolutely, you're entitled to your opinion. I said, but transparency and accuracy is a very fine line between bright. And I said, if someone came up to you now with a trumpet and went like, get in your face, it'd be like, ooh, it would be peaky and not a bit bright, wouldn't it? And raspy. And like I said, there's a very fine line between that accuracy and sort of too bright maybe. But these just are accurate. These are sort of blowing my mind with other speakers that we've got in at higher price points as well. They're contending with stuff that they shouldn't really be contending with. They're going toe to toe with other manufacturers, and you're thinking, what? And again, they just sort of, the wow factor for most people when you listen to them and when they've come into the shop and when they're sitting is the bass. You don't expect the bass from this footprint. It's enjoyable for me to sort of put music on for people to do demo tracks and then see their reaction when I know when the bass line's coming in. Obviously they do as well, and they're like, oh, hello, that sort of thing. But for the imaging, these are one of the best imaging speakers I've sort of had. A lot of higher end speakers, a lot of speakers image. Of course they do, but these image superbly. And the separation, that's how it works so well. The array of speakers, how they've done this design, the way that the separation from every single instrument is completely separate of one another. There is no overlap of a guitar and a vocal. There is no sort of overlap of the sort of strings and a violin, for instance, and a saxophone. When that one plays, that one plays. It's completely separate, and you can track it completely in the image whilst you're listening to it. It's sort of, my wife, I was listening to these at home, and my wife came into the room and she was looking at me funny like, what are you doing? So I was like that, looking around, thinking, oh my God, these got an imaging track. Again, I'll put that on if you ask. I'll put that there. I've got this imaging track that I've recently found, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I'm looking around. She says, is there a fly? Is there a wasp got in? She says, there's a wasp in. Where is it? I says, it's not a wasp. I'm just following the imagery from this speaker. And again, that separation helps with the imaging, but it is pinpoint imaging. They get really. They can project very high as well. The long black coat, I believe, from, I should probably know this, I hear it 1,000 times, from Bob Dylan, I think it's the long black coat, that has a harmonic about a minute in, and it just floats like a rainbow. This from the, it's just astonishing. And it's a 3D image and it's an airy image, but it's got in a detail and you're thinking, wow, how did the guy up there, how did he get up there with a harmonica? You know, he's about 8 foot tall playing a harmonica. But again, I can't sort of, as you can see, I say in most videos, because again, they make it to the channel because I'm excited about it. This is something else at £2,000. Go and have a listen to a pair. Or come to Audio Lounge Leicester. Have a look. If you're in the Leicestershire area, we'll have a cup of tea. We'll sit down. We'll put on the tracks I keep mentioning, you know, and we'll demo some for you. Because you will be amazed. You will have heard a lot of speakers. If you're in the market for a £2,000 speaker, this is the one to beat. If you can beat it, if you think there's something better than these, if you've heard these, obviously, I mean, I've had people comment before said, oh yeah, they sound better, but they haven't heard them. So if you've heard these, but you know of a speaker that is better than these and you've heard them, again, you have to have heard these first to say that they're better, then hit me up because I would love to get those in as well. Because the sort of, the price point, albeit the £2,000 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but it's sort of within the shop here. It's surprising to me. The average is about £2,000 of budget for people to buy a speaker. And these are just going to do very well. Very well. Like I say, that Santana track that I do with the twangs and the things, and it's got drum sections going left and right, but then it's got a guitar that sort of pitches and goes twing, and you can feel this arc in the sound. And you're thinking, wait, you can follow the image, and then there's a bass, and then it's width, and you've got loads of width from it. The sound stage is fantastic. Again, that sort of changes with the amplification that you've got. But these will be driven by any amplifier. Again, they're like the R3 Metas that way, any genre of music. I put some Metallica through these. A customer asked for Metallica. How do they cope with Metallica? And the separation, nothing was much together. I don't like sort of rock and Metallica tracks because, well, I'm not a massive fan of Metallica. I don't get me wrong, you know, it's not bad. I know the tracks. My brother used to listen to them all the time. But when you get that sort of rock, heavy rock sort of anthems together, it can seem mushy, and there's a lot going on in the track, and there's guitar, and there's singing, there's this, there's drums, there's that, and it can be very like, ooh, that's a bit mushy. It's sort of, you know, got them a bit nasally, it's a bit, you know, it's not projecting as well as they should, but these were great. It separated the guitar from the singer, from the drums, from everything, and you can sort of, like I say, when you can physically track and follow an instrument, that's when you know their separation's very good. If it's all mush and you're trying to, well, where's that violin gone? That violin's sort of now being like sort of consumed by the kick drum and all that sort of stuff. But again, separation, imaging, really do get low. They are low enough for most. You wouldn't need a subwoofer with these. Don't get me wrong, there's always people out there that will have to have a sub. But for me, these are absolutely more than enough. So I don't know what else to say. This was only going to be a quick review. I just wanted to get the video out there so people know about the Studio 89s and how good they are. This is just a speaker that I want. It's that, it just works with everything. I mean, I think they'd be fantastic on sort of surround sound systems as well. If you've got that sort of a budget for surround sound, it's not always about that sort of low-end bass, you know, like an explosion happens and you think, oh, yeah, that's good, yeah. They're, you know, very impactful. They're very a small speaker. But I want that sort of detail as well. I want that imaging detail for when the explosion and all the debris hits the floor and the glass is going, or bullet casing. I want to hear the bullet casing sitting, and they've got that transparency and that accuracy, that detail to make a fantastic sort of home cinema as well. I've not tried it. I want to try it. I need to get another 3 sets of these and then I can try the surround sound through them. But again, it was going to be a quick video. Thank you so much for watching till the end, if you have made it till the end. Like and subscribe. It is free, like I say. My son always says to me to put the, subscribe and like and all that sort of stuff at the start of the channel, at the start of the video. But I sort of disagree with the start of the video because you haven't watched the video yet and you don't know if you like it. But if you have made it this far, then obviously you like it. Hit the thumbs up and that, subscribe. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.